fire has consumed a house like this one, and all that's left are the charred remains, how do you figure out what started it? All the evidence seems to have been destroyed, yet we hear on the news all the time of things like arson and faulty wiring being the culprit. But how do they know? And where do we start?
Well, if you're a fire investigator, you start with knowing the nature of fire and how it behaves. Fire, it's the chemical reaction that occurs when a fuel source like wood rapidly combines with oxygen. In the process, energy is released as light and heat. The byproduct of this reaction is a mixture of carbon and other trace particles, otherwise known as smoke. These particles cling to everything in the form of soot.
It's one of the most obvious things you see when you walk into a gutted house. Well, at least it should be. If it's not, you have good reason to suspect arson. Why? Because the amount of soot produced depends on the speed of combustion.
Normally, a house fire burns slowly and inefficiently. This produces a lot of smoke and soot. But if gasoline or kerosene is used, the fire burns faster and more efficiently, leaving behind less soot.
The amount of soot offers a clue as to what may have caused the fire. But to get real proof, you have to examine the spot where the fire started. Well, how do you find the starting point? Well, this piece of burnt wood offers a valuable clue. Notice the cracks in it that resemble an alligator skin.
Fire draws moisture out of the wood, causing cracks to form. The longer the wood burns, the deeper the cracks. And a fire always burns longest at its point of origin.
You'll notice that these cracks get smaller as you move in this direction. That means the fire went that way.
This demonstrates a basic principle of fire investigation. You start looking for clues at the least damaged area of the house and work your way back to the fire's place of birth. But there's one catch. A fire doesn't expand in a uniform manner. The path it takes can be quite complex. Fire behaves as if it were a living creature. It needs oxygen to survive, so it always moves towards sources of oxygen like windows, stairwells, or air ducts. It travels through a house like a predatory animal, seeking out and consuming whatever combustible materials it can find.
Here, the fire bypassed this flame-proof plaster and went after the wooden slats inside the wall. It got in using this electrical fixture and traveled all the way up and across the ceiling.
Fire never burns downward. It always burns up and out in a characteristic V pattern.
Evidence of this V-shaped burn pattern can be found long after the fire has been extinguished. The fire came up and out in this area. As a general rule, the lower down you find fire damage, the closer you are to the source of the fire. Following the V down tells us the fire came from this direction. Even a simple thing like a light bulb can offer a valuable piece of information. During a fire, the glass facing the flame heats up and bulges. Once again, you have a piece of evidence that points you in the direction of the fire. Once you determine where the fire started, you're finally ready to look for what caused it. This may be the most destroyed part of the house, but there's still plenty of evidence left.
The remains of a mattress found at the center of the fire suggest smoking in bed could be to blame.
Faulty electrical wiring is a common cause of fires. If the heat source came from someplace other than the wire, then the coating around it should peel off like this. If the coating is fused to the wire, then you found your culprit.
When gasoline or kerosene is used to start a fire, it leaves behind a burn pattern in the shape of a puddle. This is a good indication that arson was the cause. Samples of burnt debris are often collected and sent to a forensics lab to be analyzed for trace amounts of flammable liquids. An arsonist may have set the fire to destroy incriminating evidence. The remains of business records, for example, can offer a clue. A fire scene is like a giant jigsaw puzzle. You have to be part fire expert and part detective in order to fit all the pieces together.
It's amazing that something this small and seemingly insignificant can cause such damage. It can either be your friend or your enemy. Treat it with respect and it'll provide you with light, heat, and energy. Mistreat it or take it for granted and watch out. When you least expect it, that's when it'll turn on you. Faulty electrical wiring is a common cause of most fires. Common cause of fires. It's a common cause of fires. If the heat source came from... It doesn't pay a lot.